It's been quite a journey, as we all know, since the first IFDM was hosted here by the National Institute for Disability Management and Research, NIDMAR, in 2002. This conference was a joint Canadian-German international forum that was co-chaired by major business and union leaders who supported through many relevant stakeholders, designed, to reduce the socio-economic burden of disabling impairments on employers, on workers, and society at large. So we've been working at this through IFDM for 16 years now. And it's through Dr. Joachim Brouwer's leadership as president of ISA. Dr. Brouwer, it's right here. Raise your hand, sir. Either one. So it's through his leadership, and it's more than 330 member organizations, over 150 countries, that IFDM will carry on now, we believe, for many, many years, always aiming to bring our global community together with a focus on innovation, leadership, research, and best practice outcomes for persons with disabilities. Now, going forward with a triennial World Rehabilitation Congress, with ISA hosting the first one in 2024, IFDM will join the triennial World Health and Safety Congress, a joint ISA-ILO Congress, which is being hosted by Canada in 2020 through the joint sponsorship of the Institute for Work and Health and the Canadian Centre for Occupational Health and Safety, and the triennial World Social Security Congress hosted by ISA. I was proud in my early days as the Deputy Minister of what was then Human Resources and Social Development, which includes, in fact, our labor program. That department was one of the early supporters, the first supporters of IFDM 2020 to see it move forward. So our two signatures here today to the transfer agreement now from NIDMA to ISA is Dr. Brouwer, and as well Wolfgang Zimmermann. Wolfgang, raise both hands. Everybody knows Wolfgang, who of course is the director of NIDMAR, and NIDMAR owns the legal rights to the IFDM name and logo. So we are going to have our two colleagues here sign this agreement, this transfer agreement, and perhaps each of you may want to say a few words prior to the signing. Dr. Brown? Okay.
So thanks, Wayne Warres. Yeah, let's start alphabetically. I tried to explain very briefly why we are signing here a piece of paper, not for having such a wonderful ceremony in such a wonderful room with that auditorium, and it makes fun to sign some papers. No, there's a long story behind, and let me try to explain that by posing 3 or maximum 4 questions. I start with a very personal one. Why signing such an agreement in Vancouver? The answer is there's no better place, because Wayne mentioned that, and you know that. The story of the IFDM has started here in Vancouver, and it was for sure by random that was my first international event when I was elected as the Director General at that time of the German Occupational Accident Scheme. And if you see what happens during the 16 years of the IFDM, there was not only a tour around the globe. No, there have been several wonderful things happening here in Vancouver. It was in Vancouver when I first heard the idea of Wolfgang Zimmermann, what about of building a university focusing on disability management? That was in the year of the crisis, 2008, and you think, my God, a high pressure here, air pressure in Vancouver, that people have these kind of thoughts here. So that was Vancouver again, where this idea with the PCU started. It was also Vancouver, where at one evening, I will not mention the name of the man who's standing just at the end of that room here, where at a wonderful evening, after 3 bottles of wine, we were designing the future of disability management with wonderful ideas. But the wonderful thing is, most of them came true. So Vancouver is really the right place to do it, because this year we are in some way not at the end of the circle, but coming back to the place where disability management is more or less born, even that it is close by on Vancouver Island, but we always celebrated it here in Vancouver. Second question, why now handing that over to ISA? And I'm sure that several ones of you even don't know the organization, even that the International Social Security Association is much older than NITMAR or the IFDM. It is an organization older than 90 years, 90. That means much older than the United Nations, but from the beginning on, closely related with the United Nations, and the only organization in the world where social security organizations are members of. Organizations that represent more than 3 billion people on the globe. That means more or less everyone who is covered by Social Security. It's an organization where the members have around 3 million experts of Social Security. And it's an organization for sure that is looking for all issues of Social Security, and that means it's also focusing and looking on that what is called with different words rehabilitation or inclusiveness or participation, or what kind of word you ever will use. So ISA is really the global organization that looks for the people we are all looking for. That means to cover those people against the main risks of their life and to help people to live a life in freedom and in peace in their societies where they are. So that is a very brief explanation what ISA is doing. Why, a very technical question, in the future a triennial and not a biannual IFDM? Okay, that is easy to explain. Every organization has its own rhythm. With NITMAR PCU, the IFDM was a biannual thing. There are other organizations like Rehabilitation International, where I had the honor to serve for 8 years as a vice president for Europe there, who have every 4 years a specialized congress or a seminar on that. ISA is working in a system of 3 years. They have a 3-year budget. They have every 3 years a World Social Security Forum. They have every 3 years a World Congress on Work Safety. And every 3 years there was a pause or a break or a time for relaxing. And that time is over, because that is the right place and the right time to fix in the future IFDM. It will not be called any longer IFDM. So let me pose the last question. Is this signing of the MOU the end of IFDM? It was a wonderful journey up to here. Why ending that story of success? But the answer to the first question is no, this is not the end of the IFDM. That is putting IFDM on the next level. Because we all are experts in disability management. We are all specialists. We know how important the work is to look for participation of people with handicaps and disabilities. But let's be realistic. Most of the people on the globe are still not listening to the disabled people. They are still not realizing the needs that we have for those people. And Canada is not the globe. Canada is an exceptional situation. I said it yesterday to Minister Qualtrough. You have to realize that there are only around 20 to 30 countries in the world who even know special benefits and special programs for disabled people. And the other 160 countries on the globe do not know that. And that is the next step, what we need to achieve, not only looking for the people in our city, in our region, in our country, but making really an international movement out of it and using the power that an organization like ISA has in that way. So the IFDM will not only survive, no, it will become a much bigger and even more international movement. Even that there will be a new name, it's not decided yet what will be the future name. It will start with the World Forum on, and then it's still open. If it is rehabilitation, accessibility, participation, we will discuss about that. But what is for sure is that the disability management programs, the exchange of the experts of disability management will be in the center and in the focus of this World Forum in the future. And it is also a part of the MOU that we are going to sign now, that there will be a special technical committee for disability management. That sounds again very technical, but it is very important. The ISA is working on the expertise level with so-called technical committees. At the moment there are 13, it's a lucky number, but 14 is even better. And if there is a special technical committee on disability management, that shows to everyone in the United Nations system that disability management is one of the central issues that international organization is working in. Then it stands on the same level as the other technical commissions that are focusing on, for example, old pension systems, healthcare systems, the work on contribution collection, or on work injury systems, or what all these different technical commissions are. So it is a step on the next level to raise our voice, to show what we are doing, and perhaps it will be a step where after 16 years in Vancouver, we will look back and say, that was not only a good decision, it was a brilliant one, so let's work on that. And I hope that we see us the latest in 16 years back here in Vancouver, but there are some other international world forums to start in between. So Wolfgang, now it's your turn.
Well, as always, my good friend Jochen is a very difficult act to follow, so I'm going to just be very brief in my comments, but obviously starting out that on a very much on a personal level, the fact that this event will continue and is a pretty historic collective achievement. It was really Jochen's leadership when he assumed the presidency of ISA that we started the conversation around how can we ensure, given the challenges that we have, given the fact that we have a long ways to go to improve better outcomes, and that we explored this, and then he decided that he was going to take this forward and that this event will continue. Yasmin spoke about the tremendous amount of challenges that are left in the federal government, and what I'm thinking, what always drives me is a bit of a sad reality of a number of individuals, a number of friends that are no longer with us, who were unable to deal with their disability. One individual in particular in the early 80s suffered a logging accident, very similar to my level of injury. And he was not prepared to deal with the chronic pain that came from a broken back and steel rods. In those days, we didn't have sort of flexible rods that we have, that we use today, which are a little easier to deal with. And he said, and no matter what I and many others said, he said, I'm not going to tolerate this for the rest of my life. And he said, I'm going to wait until my youngest son graduates from high school. And sure enough, on March 31st, 1988, Bill ended up at the age of 48 years old. He hooked a hose to his exhaust, lifted himself into his van, and then turned the key. And I've seen many, way too many others that have done this. So we've come a long ways. We are making a difference, but we also have a long ways to go to truly bring about change that is durable, that is institutional, and that helps and supports those individuals that perhaps don't have the support network. I was extremely fortunate when I went back to work 6 months after my injury, that I had the support of the union, I had the support of the company, and I was able to continue working. Because nothing is more difficult, in my view, than to have to deal with a severe health challenge, whether that's a mental or a physical health impairment. And on top of that, be in poverty, where you really don't know where the next meal is going to come from. And therefore, the whole focus on driving economic participation, in my view, is critical to really make a long-term substantive difference, deal with the stigma, deal with the discrimination. And I think the fact that we have a number of jurisdictions, whether it is Germany in the early part of 2000 when Jochen took the leadership of driving a return to work agenda, the efforts that are being made in Malaysia that you will hear from, the effort and the leadership that is being shown in Belgium, and so many other countries. And the fact that we now have a vehicle and that the International Social Security Association has chosen to continue this incredibly important work so that we can learn from each other, that we, with the implementation of the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, that this will now provide a triennial vehicle where jurisdictions can report. And I certainly look forward to seeing Yasmin report first in Belgium, then in Germany, and then beyond that on all of her success. So Jochen, thank you very much for your leadership in making this a reality, that we will see international forums, a world forum on accessibility and inclusion, you just named it, so continue in perpetuity. Thank you so much.
Now we need some music, drums. That's what I was waiting for. Go on. Date and place, others will sign it. Place is Vancouver. Huh?
Yeah, that's right.
So, said and done.